Dividend yield is a really important formula to use to strengthen your analysis in the investor ratio essay. So the calculation is dividend per share divided by the market price times 100. So it's effectively telling you the percentage yield you'd make on an investment. So as in the first part in the calculation, if you had a 5% dividend yield and you were looking to invest £100,000, your dividends would be £5,000 for the year. Good question that, because obviously the market price can change on a daily basis. So if in an essay you've been given dividend yield, that's something you can say. So we don't actually know exactly how much we're going to pay, because obviously the market price can change multiple times per day. So when we're looking at dividend yield, we're looking at how much return on investment someone could make. And obviously in an investor ratio essay, a particular investor. So you can compare that dividend yield to another option. Whichever one gives the higher, obviously gives you the potential to receive a higher dividend from your investment. A higher dividend yield could encourage people to invest in those shares and cause the share price to increase. However, there is the question mark as to whether those dividends are sustainable. If it's too high, then that could be a case that the business cannot continue them. So whilst what might be great in the short term, in the longer term, you're not really going to be getting those dividends on an ongoing basis. So part of your analysis and judgment in an essay should be what causes that dividend yield to change. And if you think about the way in which the calculation is made, so dividend per share over market price times 100, if the market price is declining, that can improve the dividend yields. That's clearly not necessarily a sign of an improving business or a business that's going to make you a return, because if the market price is falling, it could be that the industry or the financial analysts think this business's profits are going to decline in future, which will clearly have an impact on dividends. So you want a bit more information. Why is the dividend yield changing? Quite often, companies that are in mature industries, ones that are not growing too much, will have a high dividend yield. It's because they've got a fairly stable market price, doesn't really change that much, but they're making reasonable profits because they don't need to invest too much money to generate that return. And therefore, as a result, they pay good dividends to shareholders, so a fairly stable and safe investment. Now, a change in profit level can clearly impact the dividend yield as well. So it could be the business is making more or less profit, which impacts the percentage dividend yield they can offer to shareholders. So you've got a question as well when you're making that judgment. Limitations on the dividend yield, I would say with most of the investor ratios, but liquidity is really important. Just because we're paying a high level of dividends doesn't mean the business has the liquid resources to continue to do so, and therefore that would have an impact in future. It's historic data. It's the dividend yield that you did or shareholders did receive in the previous year. Does not mean it's going to carry on. We would need to know the intention of the company to continue to pay dividends in the future in order to make a judgment. And we still need those other ratios. So dividend yield being high, we'd want to look at the dividend cover. How easy is it for that company to pay those dividends? So if we've got a high dividend yield, which is encouraging an investor to want to buy more shares, but then there's a low dividend cover, that may be implying that those dividends are not going to continue in the future. So the dividend yield, really important one in your essay. If you've got it, make sure you calculate potential dividends, and the examiner is looking for you to calculate the potential dividends. And so by doing that with dividend yield, that's going to help you to achieve level 4 or even potentially level 5 essay. Without it, it will limit your grade. Further calculations are needed to push you into the higher levels. Okay, good luck.